one of the fundamental points I think to stress these days is this product is now as relevant in an environment like Australia as it is in those traditional high-risk environments like Iraq, for example, or Afghanistan or Venezuela or Colombia, which has always been seen as the sort of bedrock of this type of insurance.
Kidnap and Ransom Insurance is dramatically named, but as John Gregory of AIG explains to us, this isn't just for the mega wealthy. This little-known but high-stakes product has been on the rise lately, and Gregory urges that brokers discuss K&R with any client with links to large corporations.
Kidnap, Ransom and Extortion Insurance has traditionally been focused on those pure perils, but kidnap is essentially the abduction of an individual and the return of that individual in return for a ransom payment. Extortion is traditionally focused on the communication or extortion of property, product or a person in return for a ransom. So that's the pre-threat, in a sense. One of the fundamentals that we're now seeing in terms of a buying dynamic is that the biggest corporations have probably considered this and looked at buying it, and many of them of course do. What we're now seeing is those small to medium-sized businesses buying this type of insurance, because that whole culture of corporate governance and duty of care and responsibility to employees is driving all of this. And there have been enough losses now, I think, high-profile losses in the last 2 or 3 years to make this continue to be a relevant insurance. You know, if any business is putting people in environments where there is any element of political stability, and we're seeing it currently in, for example, the Ukraine, and obviously just before Christmas in Sudan, that type of threat to persons and employees has to be managed.
Gregory explains that brokers recommending this product must examine several factors.
So I think, you know, if you're a broker looking into this sort of policy for a client, I think fundamentally you need to examine your client's profile in terms of its industry type, who it's necessarily trading with, and what that brand, that public brand perception is of that business. And some brands realistically are more emotive than others. I think you then need to consider where you are sending employees and where you are subsequently looking to build your business out.
Gregory also explains that now more than ever, boards of directors are aware of their obligations towards employees, making them more receptive to a K&R purchase.
Directors are liable subsequently for how they run a business and what they do to protect their employees, and around all of that corporate governance we talked about earlier, they have a responsibility now to recognise that fact. And as an insurance broker, I think as soon as you start to say to a client, hey, have you thought about who you're trading with or where you're sending your people, and what you're doing to protect them, and what you're doing in advance of that travel and putting people in those environments, then I think that tends to tweak consciousness, and it's not a very difficult conversation from that point to the point where the client's saying, okay, what does an insurance policy look like for me in this way?